Today on The Caroline Show, self-rule in British colonies. How did it happen and what did it lead to? With special guests from Canada and Australia.
But first, a word from our sponsors. Cats. They're so grumpy and annoying.
Hello and welcome to The Caroline Show. Today we will be discussing self-rule in British colonies. In the early 1800s, Great Britain had colonies all over the place, in Africa and Asia, as well as in Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and Ireland. As we all know, the United States broke away from the British. Just like the United States, some of these colonies were able to become more powerful and eventually be able to stand on their own with this new idea of self-rule. Now, to introduce our first guest speaker, we have William of Canada.
It's great to be here, Caroline, Thanks for having me on the show.
William, so could you explain to us what self-rule is exactly?
Well, self-rule is basically the government of a country being governed by their own people after having been a colony,
Okay, cool. So can you explain to me why Canada would want to be under self-rule? Because from what I understand, a lot of people from the United States after the Revolutionary War moved up to Canada because they wanted to remain under the British monarchy. So why self-rule?
Well, that's a good question, and here's the answer, As you know, Britain gained control over Canada in 1763 following the French and Indian War. So you had a large population of people who spoke French and a large population of people who spoke English. Along with that, the people who spoke French were mainly Roman Catholic, and the people who spoke English were mainly Protestant. As you would expect, people had issues and conflicts would break out because of the large differences in both culture and religion. And that's language being taken out of the equation, So Britain tried to fix these issues by separating us into two different provinces. Upper Canada spoke English, and Lower Canada spoke French. This worked for a bit, but revolts still broke out. Britain didn't want us to be the next American Revolution, so they sent in this guy named Lord Durham to see what it was that we wanted. He went back and told Britain we needed to be united again and that more British immigrants needed to be thrown into the mix so that French would become a part of English culture. He also said we should be able to govern ourselves in domestic matters. That's how we became a dominion,
Wow, I never realized how much planning went into making Canada what it is today. You mentioned being a dominion. What is that exactly?
A dominion is allowing a colony to have self-rule in domestic affairs, but we were still a part of the British Empire. After becoming a dominion, we elected our first Prime Minister, John Macdonald. With him, we were able to expand from the Atlantic to the Pacific Ocean, and we built a transcontinental railroad.
Amazing. It seems like being a dominion was great for Canada.
Oh, it was! We became stronger than ever, People began to invest in our natural resources, and more people migrated there, increasing our labor in farms and factories.
It really is something. Thank you for coming in today.
Thank you for having me, Caroline. It's been a great pleasure,
The Caroline Show. Today we are discussing self-rule in British colonies. For our next guest speaker, we have Adani, an Australian Aborigine. When people first landed on Australia, they thought it was uninhabited until they discovered the nomadic people of the Aborigines. Thanks for coming on the show today, Adani.
Well, thanks for having me here today, Caroline.
So how exactly did Australia become colonized?
Actually, we were colonized by British convicted criminals. They had overcrowded prisons, so they decided to send prisoners to penal colonies as an alternative to prison. When the criminals' sentences were up, they were free to buy land and settle as free people.
Oh, that's really neat, but how'd you get more colonists? There can't be that many prisoners and Aborigines.
Crikey! Very true, Caroline. Britain wanted more people to inhabit Australia, so they made found land cheap so it's easier to sell. Then they used the profit they made on land sales to lure laborers into moving over to Australia by paying their traveling fees.
It's like a sweet deal for the British laborers, but didn't it start getting crowded there with all the colonists and prisoners?
Yes, it did start to get crowded, so we finally had to just tell Britain to stop sending over convicts.
Was this what led you to become independent?
Crikey, it was! Like Canada, we wanted to be able to rule our own government. We started by uniting all the Australian colonies under federal constitution as the Commonwealth of Australia. Then we started making political reforms. We were the ones who created the secret ballot, you know. Sadly for us Aborigines, we didn't get much say in the government. We were no match for the European diseases. Many members of my family died because of smallpox. Much of my father's land was also taken away by the British sheep ranchers.
Horrible. I'm sorry to hear that, Adani.
Caroline, thank you for letting me share my story. Good day, mate.
For stopping by today, Adani. And thank you for watching. My name is Caroline Sulick, and have a wonderful day.